Despite gloomy weather, tourists flock from all over to Washington, D.C. to attend the 98th annual Cherry Blossom Festival. Little Ty, as he's affectionately known here at the National Zoo, will be boarding his private 14.5-hour-long flight to Chengdu, China tomorrow. The cherry blossoms and the capitals brought in over 800,000 people, and locals definitely noticed the drastic change in their daily routine. Professors from different schools at AU say that the class of 2010 is getting jobs at a better rate than last year's class. I'm Don Michael Mendoza, District Wire News. It's springtime in Washington, D.C., and even though skies are gray, cherry blossoms have started to make their appearance around the tidal basin on the National Mall. The trees that were given as a gift to the United States from Japan after World War II have become D.C.'s biggest annual attraction. No matter what the weather condition, tourists and D.C. residents alike are braving the drizzling rain and large puddles to catch a glimpse of the city's natural monument. Locals, like Craig Stokes, make the most of the wet conditions.
I know it hasn't come into full bloom yet, but there's still plenty of trees out here, so I'm having a good time.
Gary Bronze and his family from South Carolina also made a visit.
I heard about them, and we were here visiting some friends, so we wanted to take a ride down and see the trees.
The Cherry Blossoms Peak is expected between April 1st and 4th, and that moment keeps resident John Weber coming back every time.
Well, we like the trees. They're gorgeous, spectacular, every year. Never fails.
The city is expecting thousands of people to walk along the basin, and park officials are preparing for the rush. Despite gloomy weather, tourists flock from all over to Washington, D.C. to attend the 98th annual Cherry Blossom Festival. I'm Don Michael Mendoza, District Wire News. Some seniors are apprehensive about how close graduation is and the outlook they have on finding a job.
The metaphor I always use, in the beginning of this year, we were all on the Titanic without jobs. And that boat gets smaller and smaller. I'm on that life raft by myself now, hoping for that iceberg not to hit me.
However, other students, especially juniors, believe that there is hope for graduates and that finding a job may not be as hard as people think it is.
I definitely think there are sectors of the economy where there is a harder time for people to get jobs, but I think a lot of people graduating from AU have made a lot of those connections, and DC doesn't have that bad of an unemployment rate, thanks to a lot of the stimulus package helped to open more jobs in DC. So I think it's definitely a problem, but maybe not so much to people graduating from AU.
The attitude on campus about post-college prospects is positive and does not have students worrying about the future. Professors from different schools at AU say that the class of 2010 is getting jobs at a better rate than last year's class. I'm Don Michael Mendoza, District Wire News. Good afternoon. I'm Don Michael Mendoza. World leaders from more than 40 countries are meeting in Washington today for a nuclear summit. The group is discussing how to keep nuclear materials out of the hands of terrorists. President Obama says he hopes the summit will start a global effort against nuclear development by terrorist groups. Republican critics say the president isn't taking a tough enough stand against nuclear threats from Iran and North Korea. Elections in the Sudan are being extended for another 2 days. The Sudan Election Commission says it wants to make sure everyone gets a vote. Election monitors are complaining that voting hasn't even started in some parts of the country, and that some voting stations have been moved without notice. This is Sudan's first multi-party election in a quarter century. It will determine whether current President Omar al-Bashir wins another term. Al-Bashir is under an international indictment for war crimes in Darfur. Russian investigators are blaming human error for the crash of a Polish plane that went down near the Smolensk airport in western Russia this weekend. Polish President Lech Kaczynski was killed, as well as other political, military, and religious leaders on board. There were no survivors. The flight crashed on the way to a memorial service. The weather was bad, and the pilot attempted to land in dense fog. That's all we have time for today. I'm Don Michael Mendoza. Tune in next time for District Wire News.